Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery. For my money, the best local brewery here in Cincinnati. Such good people, and they have been friends of the Postcast for a while now. If you have not been to their brewery tap room over in Columbia, Tusculum, you are way missing out. But they have a ton of events that makes going out to Streetside so much fun. And I gotta tell you about 420 Saturday, this Saturday coming up. It is a jam-packed day for Streetside. You got Sabra releasing on 420. They had variants on their New England IPA, mixed 4-packs, and a whole bunch of other goodies. You also have FA Cup semifinal watch party happening, as well as live music later that night with Jonathan Cody White. This is a ton of cool stuff happening over at Streetside. You gotta check them out. You can go to 4003 Eastern Avenue, or of course, pick them up at the fridge of wherever you're buying your next beer. Again, a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring the Postcast. Oh, and we have a very full show for you in this one. In part one, we start off by talking about, well, some non-FCC stuff, but then FC Cincinnati. The window is coming to a close. How do we feel about the team Albright and company has done so far? Do we think that they stick with this formation for much longer, this system for much longer? Do we see changes? Do we see changes on the road? And that leads right into our Atlanta preview and predictions. Then over in part two, we get pretty nerdy on relevant sports and what a pending or what a lawsuit looks like that may be headed to the Supreme Court, and what its implications are for MLS and U.S. soccer's future. We wrap it all up in part three with listener questions from the Patreon, and this is going to be a classic postcast. And joining me to talk about all of that and more, I've got two gentlemen here that are embracing the midweek lull. I'm joined by the Chief, and we are joined once again. Grayson has decided to come back to the pod. You know, there was a moment, Grayson, I wasn't sure we'd ever see you again. I'm happy to see you.
Yeah, earlier before we started taping, he was like, hang on, guys, I'm having a problem with my computer. And I thought in that moment, what if that was his goodbye to us? That I don't know how to quit doing this podcast, so I'm just going to log off the recording, and then just you'll never see me again because it never started working again. Who knew?
That would be like the funniest bit. To be like, oh, sorry, my computer broke, and you never hear from me again.
Delete all social media.
You take it to that same spot Hunter Biden got his laptop repaired, and I just left it there. I never picked it up again.
It's so funny to me that Hunter Biden took the idea that Hunter Biden took his laptop to a repair shop, as if people get their laptops repaired and they just don't buy a new laptop.
It's simultaneously the most ridiculous and also the most unsurprising story of all time.
This is a guy with Ukrainian corruption money, and he's going to some little shop in Jersey and be like, hey man, my screen was a little weird. Can you fix this? And it just happens to be a shop that knows Rudy Giuliani personally.
What was wrong with his laptop? Have we ever figured that out?
Don't call me Aaron Rodgers, but there's it's just very funny to me sometimes, the stories that we're told that we're supposed to believe.
It's all I forget who I was having this conversation with a while ago, but it was the Harry Potter, speaking of other problematic people, this idea that there would be wizards existing in the real world and no one would pick up on it, and they would be, they'll just tell some convenient lie to the muggles to cover up the fact that there was a wizard fight. And you think to yourself reading the book, well, that's nonsense. I would surely know if there were wizards around. Yet there's all sorts of nonsense that we just believe. We just believe the door blew off a Boeing plane. That is exactly the kind of story the wizards would tell if, like, you know, one of the Aurors took out a dark wizard on a flight.
Maybe
like,
maybe the Baltimore Bridge was a wizard fight.
Right?
I like that. There was the...
Where it's just like, oh, the pilot forgot how to drive the ship for a second.
Right. And just one of the busiest, you know, ports, one of the most experienced pilots. He just forgot. The mysterious Miami mall closures. Everybody remember that? Or like 200 squad cars responded to a mall that was evacuated and nobody ever figured out what it was. There was no arrests. There was no official police report.
I can tell you something with confidence. There was nothing serious that happened there because so many police actually showed up. There was probably like a Stormy Daniels show.
Right. I had to crack down on that.
I remember when like Stormy Daniels did that club around Columbus.
Yeah.
And the police like busted her for like
lewd acts or something.
Lewd acts or whatever.
Full contact show.
For a full contact show, which they should have known they shouldn't have busted her because it's because the law was it's only applies to somebody who regularly dances at that club, and clearly she doesn't. But also it was like the write-up of like the police report was funny because there was like 4 or 5 officers that like went up to the stage. So like clearly they were just having fun. Like it was just like clearly they were just like having a good time. Because like after the first guy like gets, you know, the contact or whatever, it's not like he goes back. He's like, I'm not sure, man. I think you need to go up and see. And
it wasn't clear and obvious. That's the.
So now you got to do it a couple of times because everybody knows when they go to court, they plea bargain. You drop 2 charges, you keep 3 charges. We need to make sure we do it 4 or 5 times to make sure at least a few of them stick.
Right? It's just like.
You'll be happy to learn that I'm fairly certain all of the police officers were eventually fired for that, and she was paid something like $500,000 for her troubles. So
to think if all they would have done was if they just would have brought some singles to the stage, it wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah, just gonna, you know, it didn't work out that night, boss. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know either. You know, I was speaking of what, were you going to do an awesome transition with Stormy Daniels and porn stars to soccer? Because that would be awesome.
No, it was not. It was not to soccer.
No,
that's fine. Take us where you want.
I was going to say, speaking of live performance, I had a short trip to New York last week, and I feel like I would be remiss on this podcast,
please,
to not mention that I saw 2 Broadway shows over the weekend.
Wow!
Tell me more.
And I saw Appropriate on Saturday. It was incredible. Not going to talk about it in detail. And then on Sunday, I saw An Enemy of the People, which is a older play. It's by Henrik Ibsen. And, you know, I'm not an Ibsen scholar by any means. I'm like a regular person who, you know, thinks A Doll's House is good and Hedda Gabler is terrible, like everybody does. But the show stars Jeremy Strong from Succession and Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos.
Wow.
And glad to see he's finding work. That's good.
It's like a heavy, high recommend for this show. But I was sitting in the audience, and the translation of the play is like they use like kind of modern language, not like distractingly so, not like a lot of slang and stuff, but it's like they'll say like, oh, the dinner was great, you know, which is maybe not something somebody would have said in like 1890. And about 20 minutes in, this old couple stands up, and like I see them from across the theater, and it's like a round theater. So they walk up the aisle. I see them like walk around the back of the seats, and they have to like walk by me to leave the theater. And I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on here.
Is this part of the show?
Yeah, okay, I had like, but it's funny because like I had like literally just had a thought was like, oh, I like that the language is like kind of modern because it feels like the performances are like more natural and you know, like I was really vibing with the show, to be honest. And as right before they walk out, the lady yells, not a fucking word of it was Ibsen. And I'm like,
bold. Oh, I like this.
and I'm like, holy shit.
It's like a Broadway Karen right here. This is good.
Like, what is she expecting? Is she expecting Norwegian?
Right.
But I think it's, it's like, it was interesting, certainly, to think about like what's an appropriate way of like translating.
This feels
right?
like
do you have to translate in a stilted way that doesn't read natural to modern audiences, or can you have like a little bit more freedom with it? And that seems to me like an artistic choice.
Yeah.
And I don't know like what your beef is to be like I understand saying like, oh, this was like a lot of bad choices were made.
Right.
But to complain like none of it was the exact words of the person who wrote it in Norwegian struck me as quite strange.
I mean, that was one of the main that was one of the main criticisms. One of the main criticisms of when they finally translated the Bible into English in the King James Version was that in order to keep the divine word of God as close as possible to the original text, they not only translated the words into English, but they kept the Hebrew syntax, which absolutely does not work.
That's not the King James Version. The King James Version is like the literary translation. They translated it. I'm pretty sure the King James Version of the Bible is the one they translated into like kind of like a literary style, because that's like the post-Elizabethan era where they were like Shakespearean kind of language. Like my understanding, I could be wrong.
My understanding,
people can feel free to recommend it. My understanding is that the St. James Version is the one that's viewed as the one that has like the most artistic license taken with it.
Yeah, the King James versus the St. James Version. The King James.
Yeah.
The King James, is my understanding, this is great. 3 soccer bros discuss biblical translations, is that the King James Version was translated from the original Hebrew, but they kept the Hebrew syntax, which led to a lot of very weird turns of phrases. And this idea that, like, when you translate something, are you going to say that you're right on this?
So Wikipedia says, noted for its majesty of style is the King James Version.
I don't know. I went to Catholic school. We didn't discuss such things.
I agree. I also grew up Catholic, so like we don't recognize the King James Version as like anything.
No, we were still
except for
Latin
like a fun little exercise somebody did.
Some translation project for some people back in the day. No, I was actually also wondering too, like, will there ever be a time when someone shows up at the Bailey and stands up and loudly walks out saying, not a word of this was Das Harks, because they changed the chants so much.
We can only hope. No, Chief, though, I'm so glad you actually brought up the Bible thing, because that's exactly where my mind went. But like in this sense of like, you can imagine somebody getting pretty late in their life thinking the King James Version of the Bible is the Bible, and then going to a scripture reading and hearing like the NIV for the first time, or an even more modern translation, and thinking this isn't the Bible. The Bible is supposed to be harder to understand. It's like, was she hoping for like a worse, more stilted, more literal translation? And then that's truly what the play should have been, and that making it easier for a modern audience is, I don't know, that's so funny though. It's almost the opposite problem of that, was it the 90s Romeo and Juliet play where they didn't, or the movie.
Oh, the Baz Luhrmann one?
Yeah.
It's very, I like that movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a very fun movie, but it's like very funny with like Brian Dennehy saying like, hand me my longsword. And it's like a handgun with the name Longsword written on the side of it.
There are some moments where it gets a little funny. Yeah. I thought the news reporter at the beginning is like a clever use of like the narrator.
Yeah. And like any Baz Luhrmann, like it's a fun ride for sure. It's,
If people aren't familiar with this one, it is essentially a modern telling of Romeo and Juliet with every word, I think, without exception, is exactly from the original, as much as we have it, of Romeo and Juliet from Shakespeare. However, it is the setting and the props and everything else is a very modern setting. So it's also
it takes place in like Verona, California.
Right.
Right. But that's like in that movie's defense, although it feels more artificial in film form because movie is like more of a literal medium than theater. But like there's a long tradition of like just transposing like Shakespeare to like different settings and time periods. Yeah. On the stage and not like updating any of the language. But it's more stark. Yeah. In a movie than it is like in a play, because like with plays, like there's the whole thing, like there's just like this understanding that it's all artificial, right? And in a movie, you're expecting like no, I'm watching real life,
right? I'm in this world, whatever this world is. You kind of have to buy into the world. Yeah.
It was also the last movie I think where Leonardo DiCaprio dated someone that was appropriately his age.
That feels right. So. Yeah.
He's never really moved on from that particular time period of woman, it turns out.
Actually, probably Blood Diamond?
Maybe. How long was that?
His love interest in Blood Diamond was what's her face? The woman in Requiem for a Dream and Rocketeer, who I think actually is older than him.
Jennifer Connelly. Wikipedia for the win.
Although I guess they very prominentely do not hook up in that movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think she's a love interest.
Well, it's like pseudo because it's addressed in the movie.
He would have liked it been
they were never in the right situation for it to happen before.
That's it.
Spoiler alert for the movie Blood Diamond that came out 20 years ago. He died.
What?
I've been meaning to watch it all of this time. How dare you, sir?
The blood diamonds were rubies all along.
I think it's still a good movie. If anybody, hasn't seen it, but
2006 on that one. So there you go. Yeah. Boy, speaking of,
go ahead. How do you do this one?
Speaking of Sierra Leone Civil War, how about that Boop and Acosta chemistry, huh?
Not your best effort. I'll give that one like a B.
So if the formation they roll out against Atlanta is a 4-4-2 diamond, it's the blood diamond. Better. It's the blood diamond.
Right. And Leone in Sierra Leone is lion.
Oh.
So we are the knifey lions.
Knifey Leones.
Yeah. Knife Leones.
Surely that's the word.
This is what you get when there's not a lot of news going on with this team right now.
Oh boy. Well, we do have some FC to talk about here. I guess we probably should touch on the offensive offense, huh? That would have been better. On this team. FC Cincinnati still has yet to bring in that supposed striker depth starting striker position this window. The window is rapidly approaching its close. It is April 23rd. It'll be closing. We're just 5 days away by the time you're probably listening to this. It's not to say nobody has signed. We did get signing this week. Grayson, I apologize. I don't have his full name in front of me.
Kenji Mboma Dem
boys.
DEM.
Yeah, he is French international, played at University of Dayton, drafted first round by...
I think second round. Second round.
Who was the first round pick?
Brian Schaefer.
Okay, there we are.
Out of directional Florida.
I'm going to say South Florida.
South Florida.
Florida.
Because we play them all the time in preseason.
Yeah.
It's a Tampa guy.
So Dem, French international, played at University of Dayton, did officially sign. He had been
my understanding is that he so as a international player, they were waiting for his visa clearance to get him signed.
Okay.
And that so he's been practicing with the 2-team and senior team.
Are we allowed to admit
here
that?
And there?
Is that going to get him in trouble?
the
State media. Carter Chapley.
Carter.
Carlton.
Oh no!
Carter Carlton.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Or is so that he can understand it. I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, that's important. Got to put it in his dialect.
I'm sorry. So I think since various people have acknowledged that he's trained with teams various times, I think it's okay to acknowledge it. My understanding is that is that they were waiting for like his visa to come through to like officially announce him as signed with the team.
And he did sign, we should note, to the MLS Next Pro.
Yes,
was his contract.
FC2.
Yeah,
soon to be Kentucky Football Club or whatever we're calling it.
Kentucky Commonwealth United FC.
The Commonwealth FC, which is like a
KFC was just it was right there.
Which is like an entity in the Walking Dead universe, is the Commonwealth.
Ooh.
So,
surely
we'll
it's
see.
a faction in the new Civil War movie, right? Everybody's
probably, yeah.
Everybody's
I
faction.
haven't seen it yet.
Maybe in the new Fallout show, which I'm one episode in on. So
I am also episode in.
There is a reference to the Commonwealth in the show. There is a reference to the Commonwealth in the show.
It's the Brotherhood of Steel is definitely a reference.
But they mentioned the Commonwealth and the Brotherhood of Steel, and I'm not sure it's ever explained. I'm not all the way. I'm a little ahead of you guys, but
okay.
I'm not sure that they've explained to my point in the show
the sitch,
what they are like, what their Commonwealth is, or if it's just like the Commonweal in the sense of just like the overall Commonwealth welfare of all mankind.
I've really enjoyed the show because I've been calling the shots before they show up to my wife, who is kind of annoyed and half impressed. I'm going to choose to believe she's impressed.
I've never played a Fallout game.
Oh,
surprise!
So good. The setting is
I don't play
unbelievable.
video games.
It's unbelievable. Like, you take the 1950s, atomic age future that they thought that they were going to get. 2077, you nuke it. And then you go 250 years in the future and you're dealing with the aftermath of that. So good.
It's a good show. 100%. Like this was not on my radar.
Yeah. Until
I found out Walton Goggins was in it. And then I was like, okay, I'll watch this show. And it's very good. I've seen some people complaining about like video game stuff. And I gotta say, like, isn't the point of video games that like you play it and like different stuff happens?
Yeah,
yes.
Famously,
wouldn't that kind of suck if like the same exact stuff happened every time you played the video game? But, I guess I don't understand the critique.
Right, so this explains it to Grayson right here from a nerd.
I love this.
when you play a video game like Mass Effect or Fallout or Dragon Age or Skyrim, there are many different ways to play the game.
Those all definitely sound like video games. I believe you.
Right. There are many different ways to play the game, and everyone is convinced the way they do it is the right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when whatever choice you make in this
Warfather.
I don't even know.
I like Grayson just assuming these are video game names. This is good. This is how I feel when Grayson reads a Broadway World headline.
There's the new bit when we do headlines the next time. Grayson just does Broadway World headlines, and the two of us do like Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Some good old EGM.
Pour one out in the chat for EGM.
So, Grayson, you'll have to direct me where this critique is happening. The one thing I will say is I'm curious to see where they go with this. a beloved game in the series is Fallout New Vegas, which takes place out west. It was a more recent one.
I have an answer for this. I think I have an answer for this because I think I actually saw it. But tell me what your question is.
Well, because a lot of people are concerned about how the various factions have played out and the sort of ramifications of the player's choice post that game.
I don't have an answer.
Okay, good. So that game is great. There's like an attempt to build like California, like as a republic, the new California Republic. And then there's this thing called Caesar's Legion, which is essentially organized cannibals, which is great. They love crucifying people. They're really into the Roman getup. And they're fighting over what ends up being Vegas, which is controlled by, I'll say, a computer program called Mr. House. And he's got like all of these robots that are keeping Vegas its own thing. And when the bombs dropped, he found a way to preserve Vegas, like only just like 2 blocks of the strip. But yeah, that was...
So I'll tell you the only thing that I understand from this, and I don't think this is a spoiler.
Okay.
Is that like some part of the show takes place like just after New Vegas ends.
Ah, okay. People are going to be very upset that the fact that New Vegas ends. It's going to upset people. They're nerds. What can you say? They're nerds. Okay, this is
never
not a single fucking word of it. It was New Vegas.
And that's why Dem is going to fit perfectly onto this team as the striker replacement.
So Dem's dad.
Yes.
Dem's dad was a professional soccer player, Cameroonian international, played for Paris Saint-Germain, played for Sunderland when they were in the Premier League, played for the teams escape me, but they were in Serie A. He has the father played for Cameroon in 2 World Cups, won the Olympic gold medal in 2000. I found a video of him scoring a very impressive bicycle kick goal against France in 2000. So
Henry Patrick
Mboma.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Now his son is just another Dem involved in U.S. soccer.
Yep.
He
played for Vissel Kobe up until 2005. So I think he misses.
Isn't Vissel Kobe where Yu Kubo played?
I don't think so.
I don't know about Kubo, but that's where
it's where
Iniesta,
Lincoln. It's where Lincoln went.
Lincoln went. Torres went there for a second. But yeah, Dem's father, it's got a heck of a career.
Yeah, he's quite the player.
Came up through the PSG Academy. How about that? So, fascinating.
Kenji also came up through the PSG Academy.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did.
What? We had
didn't make it at PSG, but that's fine.
I feel like we had
not
somebody
making
else.
it at PSG doesn't mean that you doesn't mean
You didn't make it. A lot of people don't make it at PSG.
Yeah. There've been a decent number of people who didn't make it at top team academies that ended up with very fine professional careers. So I'm glad they signed him.
FCC legend Joe Su was a dropout of a major academy, if I remember correctly.
Barcelona's, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
There was somebody else that went through the PSG Academy. I cannot remember who it was. It's going to kill me. I'm pretty sure there was another FC
Somebody for FC?
I feel confident in that.
I don't feel confident.
Someone in the Discord's really going to ruin one of the 2 of your days.
It was almost Lucho.
Right. Anyway, we got Kenji. So we signed a forward this window.
Are you people happy now?
He tore it up at Dayton. So there's no reason to think he would be terrible.
I know a lot of guys that tore it up at Dayton. That doesn't mean they're going to amount to anything.
Hey,
tore what up?
Just it. Tore it up in the ghetto, man. Just legends.
So we got that going for us. What do we make, though? We should have this conversation, though. What do we make of the window looming? The
so
close
we have
date
to.
looming?
I don't think we've acknowledged signing Yamil Assad.
We mentioned it.
Podcast.
I think Chief
it?
and I did that on a solo show,
sorry.
or a duo show.
But if you have takes, feel free to share them. All I thought this was just doing a solid for Lucho.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we give your buddy a job. You'll start, being friends with other people too.
Did feel that way.
It feels like a Lucho buddy situation.
And then he subs in over Halsey.
Yeah, but he didn't travel to Montreal.
Yeah.
And he was good for exactly 5 starts for a putrid DC United last year.
Yeah.
So, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Is it a bad sign if he starts on Saturday?
Depends how he plays.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm ready. I'm ready to try.
I'm open. I'm open for anybody being really good.
Yeah, I would panic just seeing that oh God, we are smashing all of the break glass in case of emergency levers that we have available to us. But no, there does not appear. Things can change. Things can happen at deadline windows.
Well, by you saying this, it almost guarantees something's going to happen tomorrow. So say it loud and say it with your chest.
Say it loud, say it proud.
Yeah, say
FC Cincinnati has not signed the striker that was promised.
Will not. Will not.
We guarantee. The hashtag postcast guarantee.
Guarantee.
They
Chris
will
Albright
not sign a striker to the senior team before the end of the window.
Kyle
and
McCarthy.
Because of that, let's have takes right now that will be stale immediately upon the signing tomorrow.
Kyle McCarthy, Hunter Freeman, Chris Albright have all completely and utterly failed not only this team, but this city.
City as a whole.
This city was looking forward to a good team, and they have failed us.
But they haven't failed the railroad because the city isn't a railroad.
Norfolk Southern owns the railroad now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So they're...
And the more the city sells off and divests of, the fewer people that Chris Albright, Kyle McCarthy, and Hunter Freeman have failed.
Is that the problem here? It was part of the futures report that was authored that FC Cincinnati sell off its offense to raise assets for the city budget.
Right. It's certainly part of it. It's I'm sure it's not unrelated.
It's in the Port Authority stadium agreement.
Right. We're selling off the offense to buy more speed bumps.
We're gonna annex all of the outlying communities and immediately privatize them.
More company towns. That's what this city needs.
Golf Manor, more like I got nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't have a golf course. It's called Golf Manor, and there is no golf course. This is just a massive failure.
What's the fucking arcade hitting range that I just...
Topgolf.
Topgolf. Yeah, Topgolf Manor. There we go.
That
would have been a funny joke if I had rolled it out in time.
No, it's fine this way, too. Don't worry about it. Topgolf Manor.
Honestly, it's better this way. So, yeah, it by all accounts, and my understanding is that the Kevin Kelsey stuff is dead.
Yeah, so is he, by the way.
I think Kevin said in a previous episode that he was personally dead.
Yeah.
I can't speak to that, but
neither can he.
R.I.P. in peace.
Neither, you're right. If he was dead, he wouldn't be able to refute it.
Right. As soon as we hear from him or his team.
And if he's alive, he's not going to refute it either because he's not one of the 12.
Yeah, the Ministry of Truth has declared that to be automaton propaganda.
So, I mean, at this point, I don't expect a signing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. How do we
feel?
I don't feel great about it.
It's not good.
How do you feel good? Here's the problem, and it's just sort of, it's what makes this team hard to talk about right now, is that you're sort of out of things to say about this team other than they're on a 34-goal pace. I looked. There hasn't been a single team in the last decade of MLS to make the playoffs on less than a 1-goal-a-game pace. As it stands right now, this team is not on an offensive pace to even qualify for the playoffs, let alone, host playoff games. The offense is not good.
Is the problem that our players are too good?
This is an interesting theory. I would like to subscribe to your newsletter.
Like last weekend, 2 shitty players scored goals on us.
Yeah.
A thoroughly washed Joseph Martinez and Ari Lassiter. We have good players, and we don't get any goals from them.
So you're saying we need more shitty players?
There have been other shitty players who have scored goals on us, including like this season.
That might explain the Assad signing.
Is that the problem? Right. Is the problem is the Assad signing that we need more shitty players?
Right. We need more shitty MLS journeymen to score goals.
Because we have a great coaching staff. We have the reigning MLS Coach of the Year and folks who have been or are widely regarded to soon be head coaches in the league. Where's our Brett Halsey goal?
Well, he's not even on the roster right now.
Or
he got sent down to FCC too.
Dotto doesn't have a goal. I don't know. It's weird to me.
I don't think this is.
It's weird to me that shitty players like Frankie scored on us. And has scored on us before, and it's just wild to me that shitty players can score goals on us,
right?
But we need to have a perfect storm of fantastic play to get a goal. So I actually looked at this today. We've scored 8 goals in the league. Lucho has scored or assisted 6 of those.
Okay.
The other 2 that Lucho did not assist on were scored by Bupenza. I assume that's just a coincidence and it's fine.
I don't think what you're saying is crazy though. I mean, even last year, this team scored spectacular goals that were the result of intricate play, great shots, Lucho doing things that are amazing. This team just, I don't know, without going back and watching every single goal, it's you're viewing this from retrospection from last year, but it just intuitively, it feels like this team is bad at scoring very routine goals. The goal
Pavel, if he was on another team, would have 2 goals this year.
Oh, right.
If he played against us, he would have 2 goals.
Yes.
I mean, look at the goal Kubo scored this past weekend. I
didn't see it.
It's a routine goal. It's we
finally got one. Yep.
It's a one-on-one. He shoots and scores. They don't get that. They don't get someone takes the ball down to the touchline, cuts it back to a wide open guy at the penalty spot who kicks it in. They don't make that pass. It's too many intricate dribbles. The idea of making the perfect pass here, the perfect pass there. They just don't have anyone that just is I'm going to brute force this ball into the box and see what happens. And for all the talk of Bupenza being a poacher, he doesn't play like a poacher. He plays like a guy that's trying to do everything perfectly to set up for a miracle wonder strike goal.
We get no poaching.
Poacher.
We get no poaching.
None.
Yeah.
We haven't had poaching, honestly, for a while.
And it does make me wonder, too, this idea that, we don't score the routine goals anymore. Was that part of also the reason why Vasquez's production dropped last year? Is that he's a dude that scores a lot of really routine goals where, he makes a nice run, ball finds itself in his feet, and he taps it in.
Well, if you asked him, that's exactly why, because he explained to people that he had no service.
Right.
Last year.
Yeah.
So.
But this team won a supporter shield and made it to 2 semifinals.
Yeah.
It wasn't a problem last year. And on top of that, the defense has been upgraded. I think we could still say that. Roman's at least a year more veteran when he's healthy, when he's around. Although
Roman has long COVID.
Yeah, in his leg. Leg COVID.
Roman's got the consumption. He's Nicole Kidman at the end of Moulin Rouge. She's just coughing. We don't have him available.
It's that is a little concerning. But yeah, just that like nothing should have changed that much with the offensive philosophy that it is so inept.
Now see, this is where I posted this on the Discord today, and I believe this, that everything that is wrong with this team right now offensively is a trickle down from not having a big target striker. That because they don't have someone who can win a long ball, it means they have to play short. And if you have to play short and you have to play out the back, then teams know that they can just relentlessly high press you, relentlessly press you in the midfield, where there isn't that fear that like, oh, we're going to go over the top and, you know, have a striker win. So it screws their midfield up. And then when they get into the final third, by not having that presence where people have to account for him moving in the box, it just lets defenses spread out.
Yeah.
There's no fear of an aerial loss or an aerial cross coming in and someone losing to someone taller than them. So they spread out. There's no room for movement. And just, if the goal was to run 2023 back and use the same tactics, we can't do that right now because we are missing a big piece that just everybody else has to generate, it just changes the way of the gravitational pull in the actual field of play. And it has affected everyone else negatively by not having that.
I agree with that, but like my response to that would be that Columbus plays incredibly well without a starting target striker. And, just we have the MLS Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
And we have Dom Kinnear and Kenny Arena and Ricky Paez, like all on staff. Figure out a way to play with the guys you have.
Yeah. Switch it up.
Don't play the way you played when you had Brandon Vasquez. Like Corey Baird has been like a very useful striker. I don't want to go down a Corey Baird like tangent, but like he's been a very useful striker.
Fine.
He's been a very useful striker in MLS throughout his career.
Has he? Sorry.
He has. Figure out how to play with that for now. If it's a players not like following coaching situation, that's unfortunate. I don't know how you deal with that, but like it is like they have players. You can't like tell me that Columbus has a better 11 than we do.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that. So the coaching staff needs to figure out how to win with the players they have instead of wait for like a player they want.
Yeah.
What if it isn't that though? What if, and I've been thinking about this too. There's really like, okay, so we're approaching this, and we talked last week when you were off gallivanting around listening to people complain about Swedish translations. So they are asking a lot of players to do things and play in a formation that they haven't played in before. Luca Oriano has never played as a wingback before.
Yeah.
DeAndre Yedlin hasn't played as a wingback before.
He's played as a wingback.
Not recently, though. Most of his career has been spent as a more of a left back.
Well, right back.
Right back, sorry. Most of his career has been spent more
But I'm pretty sure he's played as a wingback.
Regardless. Most of his career has been spent playing not that. You have Pavel Buka, who's come in, and he's done a lot of similar things to what this formation asks him to do, but not this exactly. And so I'm wondering a little bit if the dilemma facing the coaching staff right now is we can tweak this to be better. But if we do that, we're basically giving up on what we think is an ideal formation for our organization to run. And these people,
I don't care about that latter part.
I guess, but like if you brought them in with the idea that you were going to convert Orishano to a wingback and play him as a wingback, and you give up on that right now, you're basically saying like, okay, well, that I'm precluding that because you had to know that there was going to be minutes where he was going to look bad until he got the position down. I don't wonder if this isn't sort of a feature, not bug situation where it's like, yeah, he has to learn to play this position. Yedlin has to learn how to play this position the way we want him to play this. Pavel has to learn to play this position. And it's just sort of like, how long are you willing to wait before you realize that this isn't going to work? I don't know if they have an answer to that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question. I think that, Luka would prefer to be played in a position where he's like scoring goals or getting assists.
But he also signed here. Knowing they were going to make that transition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's part of what the coaching staff has to deal with. But like, if you got a bunch of players who are not working in the positions you want to play them in, it's not like about like what you philosophically think the organization like should play in. As Pat recognized in 2022,
yeah,
when they got their ass pasted, playing in a 4-4-2 against Austin. Like, it's about what you can do to win games.
Yeah,
and everybody benefits from winning games.
Yeah, the
players benefit from winning games.
Yeah,
and like, so the argument that so we'll talk about the Barreal situation for a second, right? Like, there was the reporting that like he just wanted to leave Cincinnati, and the argument that he just wanted to get out of Cincinnati was that he wanted to play his like quote unquote natural position. I don't think any of these players would be bothered by playing in a position that they're more productive in.
Right.
Like, they might be fine playing how Pat wanted them to play, all things being equal. But at some point, like, you got to realize, like, you got a lot of really good players on this team. There has to be a way to put them on the field that makes them look better than they've looked.
But like, isn't that like sort of the dilemma here? That like, okay, there's a way right now you could make this team look better by playing players in their more natural position, switching the formation up. But if you genuinely believe as part of the coaching staff that if I do this, my top number out of like 1 to 100, with 1 being absolutely awful, 100 being the best team in MLS history, if I make the fix right now, I can get them to 75. But if I give them time to learn this formation, learn their new positions, I can get them to 85. And it goes back to what Pat Brennan said earlier in the year, that I don't know if this was informed speculation on his part or it was sort of like, I've heard this around, that this year isn't the year. And like, fans don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. But you wonder at this point, the longer they go on rolling out Orishano as a wingback when there's evidence to suggest they probably could do better in the short term with just playing him as a winger in a 4-4-2 or
Sure. Two comments in response to that. One is, you have players like Robinson and Orishano who are only on the team for this year.
Orishano's on this team long term.
He's on loan. He's on loan.
They're going to hit the purchase option. Like what?
Maybe.
If you had to buy now,
I'm not going to assume that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to assume that, but maybe. Robinson's on this team only on a 1-year contract. Okay. the second response to that, I like kind of lost a little bit because you interrupted me.
Sorry.
What was the last thing you said?
Just that, it's that this might not be the year this year, and that this might be a year where you're eating your vegetables to get all these players acclimated. There's multiple avenues of this. There's a combination of your transitioning players to roles they haven't played, and there's a little bit of Goss theorem as well, that you brought in a couple of players that have never played in MLS that are going to require an acclimation period. I hate this idea, by the way. I hate that I'm thinking about this, but the longer they keep doing the same thing over and over again, it does lead me to conclude perhaps that they see more utility in teaching their new roles to people than they do maximizing their current comfort level.
Yeah. So the other response to it that came to me was, I would love to hear that from like the coach or the GM.
Yeah,
but they're not going to say that because nobody buys tickets to a team that's rebuilding.
But say it. Like, just say like give us some idea of like what your vision is. And they don't at all.
So here's one thing I will say. The team has lost 2 games in a row. This is a very
I know.
rare occurrence.
I know it's insane to be right. Two losses in a row, but it's not just 2 losses in a row. It's like how they've looked the entire season.
And that's what I wanted to get to, which is, yes, 2 losses in a row should not be enough to abandon any long-term project, assuming you have any degree of faith in that project. But Chief, to your point of, if we just have to eat our vegetables because it has a higher ceiling if we do this, you should expect to see progress over time. I'd be fine even with very uneven results if we can say, okay, Orishano's got this down. Okay, Buka looks like one of the best midfielders in the league. Like slowly but surely things were coming online. And then sure, maybe offense is the last thing to come online. But like last game, Buka and Obi had 2 of their worst games ever. I mean, not that Buka has an extensive history with us, but Obi looks bad. And I know he's coming back from injury, but that was a rough outing. To the point where you're thinking Malik Pinto might not have put up, those possession numbers in much the same way. So I think at this point, the results have started to slip. You could buy it before when the results were good to fine. But now that things have started to slip, now's the time that you pull the plug on the grand, build up of this year and you go with what works.
I guess. But like, if you've got faith in your system and they seem to have faith in what they're doing, I don't know. It's hard to analyze this, rationally, because like you said, it's only 2 losses, but they look so lost on offense. Yeah. And it looks like it's regressing to where earlier in the year you had the ability to convince yourself, the goals are coming. They're getting themselves into dangerous positions. They're not even doing that now. So that's tough. And I don't know. Like that's why the bigger idea of this window closing without a striker coming in, it's tough because it just doesn't look like now at this point this is what they've got. And until the summer window opens up, which is not until what? Like late June, early July, I want to say.
July 28th, I believe. Or July 18th, that's it.
July 18th. And that's right around the time the Leagues Cup break starts, if my memory is correct, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what they're rolling with for the foreseeable future. And that's hard because this team's been a tough watch for the last couple of weeks. And really, I don't know, it's been a tough watch since that Monterey game, really.
Yeah.
So I guess if you had hope that this was going to change with a signing, that's not going to happen right now. I don't know. It would be interesting, to Grayson's point. I say they're not going to get out there and tell you it's a rebuilding year, but
there's ways to do it.
There's ways to do it. And the other thing too is it's like, fair's fair in this. Isn't this what we criticized Gerard Nijkamp for a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
That that we criticize Nijkamp a little bit for not being open and not being transparent with the media and therefore not being transparent with the fan base. And one of the sales points for Albright was, he's going to understand a little bit more about the need to get out there and sell the business plan to people.
Yeah.
And okay, it's 8 games. We're at the quarter post for the season. If it doesn't get better in the next couple of weeks, I do think that there's an obligation for more from Albright and Noonan than just Noonan going out there for 4 questions on a post-game soundbite. I would like to hear from Albright. It doesn't have to be here. I don't anticipate it would be here. But go talk to Mo Egger.
It's not going to be here.
It's not going to be here. No. No,
and I don't want it to be here, to be honest.
No, we would ask the wrong questions. We would just be like, "Hey, thanks for showing up. This is so cool, isn't it?"
You're the vibes guy too, right?
So do you miss Philly cheesesteaks? Have you tried Penn Station?
I think the end of the window, though, is the perfect opportunity, to your point, to put Albright on a show or with Pat Brennan or something to explain, not even explain, but in his words, review the window. How has this team construction gone? Where do they see gaps that they want to fill in the future? I would love to know more about position battles. Where do they feel settled positionally? And where do they feel like there could be some movement one way or the other? I light a fire under some guys' asses. If you say, yeah, we've got midfielders that are underperforming and we may need to be looking at, sales this summer to whatever it takes. Strikers, same thing, whatever that is. Yeah. I will say Noonan in particular, but Noonan and Albright, they do seem to be fairly pragmatic. I mean, what I was going to mention with Barrial in particular is he only became a wingback because Ronald Matarrita went down and they needed somebody, literally a body, to fill that in. And Barrial goes on to become an all-star there. That was not in the grand plan. We know all about the fact that they were going to try to implement the Philly diamond, quote unquote, and abandon it the second it looked like it wasn't going there. I'm sure the success of the last couple of seasons has bought them a longer leash, even with just themselves. But if the results and the performance aren't following, it's time to switch it up. And I think they will. I'd be surprised if they did this for 2 more games. I can maybe see it against Atlanta. I don't see it for 2 more games.
Yeah, my thought was if they were going to make a big change, it'll happen when they come home. I don't see the road as a place to make a big sweeping change. But what's interesting and what's just tough about this is it's really simple at this point. It's goals. It is everything else on this team. The defense is pretty good. The goalkeeping has been pretty good. The defense has been quasi-elite level when Obi was healthy earlier in the year and Roman was playing in goal. It's scoring goals, and it's frustrating to reduce it down to just that simple. Yeah. But you can't win a game 0 to -1. You got to score goals, and this team, they are on regardless of their position in the table, they are on a pace right now where they are going to miss the playoffs with this offense at this point.
If you want a fun fact for you, this team through 8 matches has tied the 2019 team's pace. So
hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Now that 2019 team did not score again until the 12th week. So let's really hope that's not what's being emulated.
But you know what's kind of fucked up. If I told you that was going to happen here, would that shock you at this point?
4 games with no goals, I would be shocked. Even the fact that, have we been awarded a penalty yet this year?
No.
We're
Should
due.
have.
We're due.
Should have.
Absolutely. We're due.
Are we? Are we due a penalty from PSRA?
We're never going to get one.
No.
And it's going to be that way forever.
For a really,
and
really
honestly,
long time.
I think one of our goals either wasn't a penalty or wasn't a result of a cheap giveaway by one of our midfielders.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot on the old FC. Is there?
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the preview. But this is another week that you can make us look stupid by scoring 4 goals.
Make you guys look stupid. I think
should we do the preview now and do other stuff next?
Yeah, actually, let's do that. Let's switch this up. Let's finish up part 1 here with preview predictions, whatever you want to call it. My question.
Hold on. Before
please.
We do that, though, I'm talking to you, the 12s here. This is for you. This isn't for Kevin. This isn't for Grayson. We're going to preview this game right now. That means that when we go back to the next segment, there's not going to be as much FC Cincinnati talk. It's okay to not listen to the rest of the episode, but you have to listen to the ad before you stop listening.
That's very important. That's very important.
This is true. By continuing to listen to our preview, you are agreeing that you will listen through at least the ad break to find out more about Cincy shirts and the promo code ThePostCincy.
Yes.
All right. Now that we have that understanding, let's do the preview.
Grayson, I ask you, will Miles Robinson start at Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think it'd be very funny if he didn't, as like a statement to how much
he
he hates the turf.
It'd be funny if he didn't, but I think he will.
Yeah.
He's already played on turf this year, right?
Yeah, but Atlanta's turf.
He is due for a rotation, though.
They have to. They're gonna play. He's starting against Atlanta.
Hagler, Murphy, Miazga wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Would it not?
I mean, I could imagine a worse lineup.
I mean,
if that's
you
what
don't
you're
have
asking.
a lot. This offense doesn't give you a lot of margin for error currently.
That is true. And speaking of Chief, who starts in goal in this game?
Noonan said Roman may be available this weekend, but we know Pat Noonan. If you're not training, you ain't playing. So I'm going to guess it's Can, just because I feel like he is the second choice keeper. And now that he's healthy, it will be his. I'd like to see Evan get another shot, but that's just me. So,
yeah.
But I think it'll be Alex.
I also would like Evan for obvious biased reasons. I will say I can't see much daylight between his and Can's performances. But
no, and I think that's a massive compliment to the way Evan played. Is I didn't see a lot of difference between the two efforts between the two of them.
Yeah,
I hope it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
my hope. That's my hope. My hope is it doesn't matter who starts. I want Evan. He was all nerves that first time. I want him to truly enjoy when he gets to wham it the next time downfield.
Right.
It's just like we've lost to plenty of teams that started their second and third string keepers or like tied them.
Yeah.
Like,
when do we get to play Cody Cropper?
Yes, exactly.
When do we get that moment?
When does our Ari Lassiter get to score a winning goal?
Sergio Santos has left the chat.
Sergio Santos makes like $1 million. Like that's not Ari Lassiter.
In fact, if you look at his salary this year, he makes divide by $0 per goal.
That's true.
I did see that Gregerson and Yakumakis will be available for
might be available.
Okay, should be
which
available.
Means they will be available. We know how this works.
They know this works.
So that's unfortunate. Gregerson, though, is always a fun one for me. He was a long rumored
FC acquisition.
Yeah, and they didn't end up pulling the trigger. Atlanta ultimately did from Bordeaux.
Who was your favorite FC almost signing? Because we've mentioned 2 of them now. We had Lincoln earlier, and now we've got Gregerson.
It's hard not to be romantic.
Mario Götze.
Mario Götze is good. I'll never forget the Papu Gomez moment on Twitter with the fan base.
Wasn't that was Gaston?
Oh, it was Gaston. That's what
it was Gaston.
Believe in Gaston. Yeah.
Believe in Gaston.
Yeah. So with the thing with Gregerson is Atlanta made him a designated player.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to say that.
And not Miles.
Fascinating.
And we apparently just didn't put enough money up for Gregerson to come here because I guess Albright just didn't rate him as a DP.
Yeah.
That's bulletin board material right there.
And Atlanta fans have been, very Cope adamant that surprisingly, we actually upgraded at center back by bringing in Gregerson.
Which is false.
And my belief is they just lowballed Miles and then had to scramble and, spend to find a replacement.
Yes.
Miles just hates turf. That's all it is, really.
Yeah. So we'll see what the deal is with Gregerson. But
yeah,
the dude's been playing in the second division in France.
Is Brad Guzan still on this team? I hate that guy.
Yeah. That should be pretty good, right?
He's there.
If we can't score on Guzan, I'm very concerned.
I think that the reason why people have a tough time scoring on Guzan is that he is so blindingly white that when you look at him directly, it hurts your eyes. It's like looking at the eclipse.
Just take long shot. I think Frankie Amaya's first professional goal was against Brad Guzan.
It was?
Yeah, in the MLS's back tournament.
Yes.
Yeah.
The classic. Also,
Kubo also had a long goal against Guzan.
For the
we've had a lot of actually outside the box goals against Guzan. Let's just take shots.
Yeah. Roland Lamaze, the 2019 goal. For other people to hate on Atlanta, Dax McCarty, if you weren't keeping track with his career, he plays in Atlanta.
Must be really tough for his wife.
That's true.
To be in Atlanta.
She had a rough time in Nashville as it was.
She would not do well in the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
And Derek Etienne is in Atlanta. I know. You'd like to have some nice memories, but the dude immediately
speaking
wins.
of shitty players that score on us.
Immediately wins MLS Cup with Crew after leaving us, and then had one of the most egregious offside dramas, I will say, with his goal against us. Again, was it last year or 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
Oh, man. I'm still mad about it, though.
Yeah.
Caleb Wiley he's a U.S. men's national team prospect, right? He's one a lot of people are excited about.
He's a prospect, yeah.
So is Brooks Lennon too, isn't he? Still?
No, he's like a past prospect.
Yeah.
He's like a January camp guy.
He's Caleb Wiley in 3 years.
He also has the worst face in the league, probably.
What a great description.
He's got he's got pro wrestler face, but
just
generic creator wrestler
just like
face.
you see it and you just I gotta punch it. Gotta hit it, get it out.
That's kind of did you ever hear that it's been going around the internet a little bit that human beings and animals all have sort of instinctive things that they fear and that are sort of like how cats, when you throw a cucumber down, it's because cats fear snakes and they have this genetic aversion to it or whatever, so that they react to whatever that is. And somebody said, put that in context of the concept of the uncanny valley with AI. What is it that was in the past of human evolution that looked similar to humans, but still caused the revulsion in us that something is wrong with this. These people aren't real.
Brooks Lennon. He's uncanny valley.
That motherfucker is not real.
My theory on that, by the way, is one, to make you uncomfortable around dead people, which feels like a good thing about preventing disease, or the other, Neanderthals. Wow. What did I just do?
Balloons on the Zoom. There we go.
Oh,
somebody's got an Apple computer.
I do. It's unfortunate. So with that lovely preview out of the way, prediction time. Chief, what do you think is going to happen in this one?
I don't see how you can pick the FC to score more than one goal at this point with their current offensive form. So I'll be an optimist and say 1-1.
Okay.
I don't feel strongly about that. I feel like we're probably going to lose, but 1-1.
Would you feel good about a 1-1 performance, though?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. At this point, they have to demonstrate they can score multiple goals. And
yeah.
And it's not only multiple goals. I gotta see Aaron Bupenza score a goal. I gotta see Luca Orishano contribute to a goal. I have to see this new offense do something. I would take a DeAndre Yedlin goal because at least that means they're actually passing the ball to DeAndre Yedlin. But like I think anything less than 2 goals in this game, and you're still on that panic pace at this point.
Yeah. Grayson, what do you think is going to happen in this one?
I'm going to say 2-0 Atlanta.
Oh, boy, that's going to be a brutal podcast on Monday.
I just don't think that they have shown the appropriate appreciation for the state that they're in. And so I just don't expect the team to be. I don't expect the team to be any better than they were last weekend.
Okay.
And last weekend they lost 2-1 to a shitty team.
Damn,
Kevin.
Well, that'll be fun to talk about. Let me do the worst of both worlds here, which is a 2-2 draw.
That's not the worst of both worlds.
I would take it.
It feels good, but that means our defense isn't very good.
Yeah, I do have questions about whether our defense is very good.
So, yeah, depending on how those 2 goals are scored, plenty of questions left. So there you go. We're feeling super optimistic going into this one. The good news is Gonzalo Pineda, their head coach, not good. So that should pan out well for us. So good. So I look forward to them winning now that I said that. Well, that's going to do it for the FC talk. Part 2, we got a sort of a grab bag of topics around MLS and sports generally, and then we'll wrap it up with your questions. So head on over there. And before we head on over to part 2, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Cincy Shirts. These guys, let me tell you about these guys. Do you know about these guys? Let me tell you about these guys. Cincy Shirts has been around from the beginning. If you ask me, and nobody did, Cincy Shirts was instrumental in FC Cincinnati becoming very, very popular and eventually leading to their MLS bid, which is why I am so excited that the Post and the Postcast are able to partner with them. Look, here's the deal. If you use the promo code ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, when purchasing something from them, you get 10% off and we get a little bit of money back our way. Huh? It also lets them know that you heard about them through our show. And even if that's not true, it makes me feel good and it makes them feel good. So use that code. Look, they just released some new Hawaiian style shirts. I don't know if they're actually Hawaiian style, but some new floral prints for FCC, some button-ups. Get on this. The supplies do not last. However, they do have 3 in-store locations, including a new one over in Loveland, where they can print most of the designs for you on a shirt. The button-ups, I don't think they can do on demand, but they can print those designs on demand in a shirt on any size that you'd like. I've definitely used that service. It is awesome. So again, the promo code, ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, knock a couple bucks off of your next order. It works on non-FCC gear too. All right. Get yourself an LA De La Cruz shirt or something like that. You're going to look good in it. You're going to have a good time. And you're going to save a couple of bucks doing this. So Cincy Shirts, again, cincyshirts.com, link in the description, the code, ThePostCincy. All one word, all caps. A huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this and many other episodes of the Postcast. And we're back, and I will say this is one in particular that I really want us to talk about, so I'm going to force it. I mean, I feel like I've been hearing a little bit more about the Supreme Court than usual in my For You tab on Twitter, but Relevant Sports has a lawsuit out there against U.S. soccer and up until, and please correct me if I'm wrong, up until recently, FIFA, that lawsuit is basically challenging U.S. soccer's monopoly on hosting regular season games in the U.S. As it stands now, only U.S. leagues can do that. Relevant Sports attempted to bring in a La Liga game and then later a Ecuadorian league game, not friendlies, not cup competitions, league games into Miami. They were denied multiple times, and they're suing because of it. That question has slowly but surely made its way, or could be making its way, to the Supreme Court. I think I've got two gentlemen here a little more informed on this than me. Chief, so it's not yet before the Supreme Court, but it could be if they decide to take up the argument. Is that generally what's going to happen here?
Sure. Your crash course on this matter for how the legal process works in the United States of America is that there is in federal court, which this is a federal lawsuit, there is your federal district court. That's your court of record. A court of record is the court that takes evidence, where you can submit evidence to the court, you can submit testimony. They have trials at the district court level. It's a court that builds the record. Then at that point, it issues a decision one way or another on various pending motions or the matter itself. At any point during that process, or at some points during that process, and I'm oversimplifying this greatly, the matter can be taken up to a court of appeals. The court of appeals is what's known as an appeal of right. You have the ability to appeal one time where the court must review the case from the district court level. Then at that point, if you do not like the decision of the Court of Appeals, you have the ability to appeal that decision to the United States Supreme Court. That is not an appeal of right. In order to get on to the United States Supreme Court docket, you have to be granted cert, which means the U.S. Supreme Court has voted to hear the case, and they do that to a frighteningly small number of cases that the Court of Appeals decides. So in this matter, the Relevant Sports lawsuit, which we'll talk about, Relevant Sports has won to this point. They have won at the court, the highest court that is a appeal of right. They have won at the appellate court level. I think the 12th Circuit, is that right?
Second Circuit.
Second Circuit. At the Second Circuit, the parties, the U.S. Soccer has appealed that decision to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can decide to take this case and then review either affirming the judgment of the Second Circuit or overruling the judgment of the Second Circuit. But if the Supreme Court does not act, the judgment of the Second Circuit will stand, and Relevant Sports will be the winner of the lawsuit we're about to talk about.
Should be a radical departure from what soccer has looked like in this country ever since FIFA was a relevant party going back to at least the 1950s. Because
this is what we're talking about here is the right that just about every country has under FIFA's international law guidelines and the individual federation laws or rules that apply in countries. And that's to basically say, we want a protection on our domestic leagues, that it is to stop. It is basically a law that exists in football and in various football governing bodies to stop what the NFL is doing in its business model, where the NFL will take a regular season game from here in the United States and play it in London or now Germany. And I think next year they're going to Brazil. They've gone to Mexico City before. That is not allowed under the current or under the previous state of the law. The EPL could not decide we are going to stage Arsenal versus Man United in New York. Now, that's been the case for as long as anyone can remember. And it's protectionism because, you know, if you have a league, especially over in Europe, if you have a league in a country like, you know, Luxembourg or, you know, smaller countries in Europe, you don't want the specter of competition from bigger leagues deciding to do cash grabs in your market. You want these teams that are in your league to generate money. The English or the European game, not just the English game, the European game is rife with these sorts of protectionisms. The joke for a long time was that it was easier, I think it still is, it is easier to watch a Premier League game in the United States than it is to watch a Premier League game in the UK, because
on TV.
Because, well, obviously, it's famously easier to travel to a Premier League game when you're actually in England. But they have restrictions on when matches can be televised and how many matches can be televised, most of which are designed to preserve the ability of smaller non-Premier League teams to still have a home gate, with the idea being, you know, very similar to the idea of, like, when I was in, you know, college, I went to Tulane. More people stayed home to watch LSU play on TV than go to Tulane games. Same thing here at UC up until recently. More people would stay home to watch Ohio State than go to a Bearcats game. The way around that over in Europe is we just won't let Ohio State be on TV at certain times, so that you are forced, if you want to watch a game, you got to go see your local team play instead. So there is this web of protections that have been built into international football, international soccer, to stop competition artificially among these leagues. And when I say stop competition, your ears perked up, it's because, yeah, we have a lot of very specific laws in the United States that the rest of the world doesn't have that are designed to prevent anti-competitive behavior.
Yeah. And that's
the rest of the world does have that. Like the European, I want to say it's called like the European Court of Justice, recently actually sided with the that, like, people may remember, like, the European Super League.
Yes.
Like the thing being proposed where, like, it would, like, replace, like, the Champions League and honestly, like, some, like, first division leagues in Europe where, like, it would be the league for, like, certain top teams in various countries.
Yeah.
They'll play the European Super League. And the various countries, like, put a stop to it. And I think the European Court of Justice, like, recently said, like, no, you can't.
So it was funny. They didn't end up, like, punishing anybody or telling them that they had to do this or that. But basically, the argument that they laid out sided with the Super League, saying that essentially your regulators are also your competitors, and that's not fair, and that the underlying, you know, structure here is wrong.
Yeah. So what they said was it was contrary to EU competition law.
Yeah.
And competition law in Europe is what we call antitrust law in the US, which is laws designed to preserve competitive markets.
Yeah. So Grayson,
which is what relevant sports is running into here.
Yeah.
Because there's a thing called the so what US soccer has argued in the past.
Yeah.
Is that by this thing called the I think it's called the Amateur Sports Act, which we've talked about before in the podcast. It was sponsored by Ted Stevens, the corrupt Alaskan senator who called the internet a system of tubes. Yeah, famously. So the Amateur Sports Act gave U.S. soccer the right. Well, it gave, like, so what the Amateur Sports Act set up was that, like amateur, it was for Olympic purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that, like, each, like, Olympic sport would be governed by a federation that was, like, in control of that sport. So, like, for Olympic soccer, it was the United States Soccer Federation.
Yeah.
The United States Soccer Federation has argued that since professionals are now allowed to play in the Olympics, that the Amateur Sports Act also allows it to govern professional leagues and, like, license professional leagues and create rules around, like, what professional games can take place in the U.S. And courts have said no, that's not right. Like, you can govern amateur soccer, and professional soccer is governed just by, like, U.S. laws.
Yeah.
Generally,
it's a regular old business. Yep.
It's a business. And so what the relevant sports lawsuit comes into place is FIFA had a rule that said that this is simplifying it somewhat, but essentially like the domestic federation of a country can prevent other countries' professional leagues from having competitive games in their territory. And Relevant Sports, which is the company that does like the International Champions Cup games, which are friendlies. They're not. Yeah, they're cash grab. They're not competitive. Said like no. We would like to have La Liga games in Miami or whatever. And what the courts below said was that it violates American antitrust law. To create like these territorial restrictions on what professional sports teams can have professional soccer games in the United States. And so what the current state of the law is that other leagues can hold professional games in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration has filed a brief in support of the Relevant Sports position.
These are called amicus briefs, where you're not a party to the lawsuit, but you are still allowed to say, I, as an interested party, would urge the court to rule a certain way or urge the court to take a certain action. And so if this case were to be taken by the Supreme Court, well, first off, the Biden administration, the Justice Department is advocating that this decision stand, the lower court decision stand, that they not even take this case in the first place, but that they have come out publicly in favor of Relevant Sports in their position that this market should be deregulated from how it is currently regulated.
Right. And the Biden administration would be they would be the primary enforcer of U.S. antitrust law.
Yeah.
So they are saying that, like, we think this is we, as the primary enforcer of United States antitrust law, think that this restriction of other leagues hosting games in the U.S. is a violation of U.S. antitrust law.
Am I fair to say that like, I know an amicus brief has like no weight or value necessarily, but it's meaningful that the federal government.
Well, so the court asked the government to weigh in.
Okay. Interesting.
So like they did invite, they specifically invited the government to file a brief.
And it does, in this case.
This was November 13th, I'm looking at the docket on the Supreme Court website right now.
Nice.
November 13th, 2023. The Solicitor General is invited to file a brief in this case expressing the views of the United States.
It's not good if you didn't want this to win.
The United States filed a brief expressing their views. So the current status of the case is the Supreme Court is going to conference on April 19th.
Okay.
So
about this case.
Day after
tomorrow.
So
day after you're likely hearing this podcast.
Wow.
The conference is 4/19/2024. They're going to consider whether to take this case or not.
When will we find out if they do or don't?
That's hard to say.
Okay.
It's when they announce cases for the upcoming term, because when they're taking this case, it'll be for the upcoming term that starts on the first Monday in October of 2024.
If they weren't going to take it, but knowing that, like, I don't know, this could be relevant, would they release something like a statement or anything quickly?
They won't. I don't think they'll release a statement like specifically about the case. Like, we won't take it.
Yeah.
I think it just will, like, they release, like, they have releases that have, like, a lot of them are just like single line, like,
certiorari is denied.
Accepted, denied. Okay. You know, like, so it'd be probably something like that.
Just in a big dump of a whole bunch of other.
Yeah, it'll be in like a dump.
Gotcha.
Of things, I expect.
So, Grayson, this is the part I want to ask you about. So it's. Please.
before we get to any deeper in this, I think it's important to point out the reason why we're talking about this and the reason why this is like why we've strayed off on this tangent and why we've let off with this is that this sort of represents a very existential threat to Major League Soccer in any number of ways, and basically soccer in the United States. This lawsuit will almost certainly be used as precedent in the lawsuit that's ongoing between the NASL and MLS about whether, and U.S. Soccer, about whether or not U.S. Soccer has the ability to sanction leagues. So right now, MLS is sanctioned as the Division I league in the United States. U.S. Soccer has the professional league standards that lay out the criteria that you have to fulfill as a league in order to gain sanctioning. If U.S. Soccer is found to be engaging in anti-competitive practices and doesn't have the ability to govern in this field for professional leagues, it's going to be a free-for-all for USL and other leagues to say, well, we are also the de facto Division I league. There is no professional league in this country. It's just whoever decides to market themselves as one and captures in the court of public opinion the status of best league in the country. The other existential threat here is just this idea of the one thing MLS has going for it, or any league in America has going for it, is that you can watch better soccer on television. Soccer has never been more accessible on television. You can watch the top clubs in Europe on any number of platforms. You can watch Champions League, you can watch the PL, you can watch all these leagues. What MLS has going for it is the live experience, that if you want to watch a competitive soccer game in the United States of America, your options are really limited to either Major League Soccer, another professional league, or an officially sanctioned event that is being hosted by U.S. Soccer, the Copa America, World Cup qualifying, international games that are under the auspices of U.S. Soccer. The minute that ability to say we're keeping everything out but that goes away, it opens the door to any number of other things. The aforementioned La Liga game in Miami, there would be nothing to stop, legally to stop, the Premier League from playing Man United versus Chelsea at MetLife Stadium. Now, there's a bigger conversation eventually to have about this idea of what would the reaction be from fan bases overseas to find out they were losing matches to the United States for a cash grab. That's neither here nor there. But the reason why this is important is that this is the kind of competition that MLS probably never anticipated having to face in terms of an actual competition for dollars for competitive matches. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so the one tweak I have to what Chief said is I do think there's a chance that like League One standards survive, because there's a case from like the early 20th century that involves MLS, and it was like an antitrust case.
Early 20th century?
Yeah. The early 21st century. Sorry.
This thing's been around for a
How
lot
deep
longer
does
than I
this
thought.
go?
Ye old FC.
And it was like it predates the players union. It's that old.
Interesting.
A better time.
Is they argued that like MLS like had a monopoly on like League One, like Division I soccer players. And what the court determined is that like Division I soccer players was not like a quote unquote market.
Right.
Okay. So like there's a chance that like Division I sanctioning or whatever is not deemed to be a market consistent with the prior decisions about the players, because like you can play for whatever league you want. Like you can play for USL. It doesn't matter if it's Division I or Division II, or you could play overseas or whatever.
Yeah.
Like So there's a chance that like U.S. soccer's ability to sanction Division I leagues, Division II leagues, etc., is not like interrupted by the relevant sports decision.
Right. It's the NASL lawsuit that is challenging.
So the NASL lawsuit is the one that's challenging U.S. soccer's ability to sanction Division I leagues, etc.
Yeah, U.S. soccer.
And I think that seems like a tougher bid than the relevant sports lawsuit, which is like
they've been doing
like,
it.
Honestly,
for,
like
won.
I don't
relevant
honestly
sources.
like relevant sports is one, and like also like. Why should U.S. soccer get to prevent like La Liga from hosting games in Miami?
Yeah,
it's and the funniest thing about it all to me is the pro rel people are on the side of MLS in this lawsuit. Like they've like kind of like very consistently taken the side of MLS in this lawsuit. And it's like, yeah, like what I've been saying on this podcast for forever is like, you guys do not support the free market.
No.
You guys support regulation of the free market to preserve like exactly like your aesthetic vision of what soccer should look like.
Not even practical,
like
just the aesthetics.
You want soccer to like specifically look like exactly how you want it to look.
How you imagine England, yes.
Yeah, okay, so this is how I explain Fallout to you.
Because like free market soccer is like none of this exists.
Yeah.
Like antitrust laws certainly don't exist. Because antitrust laws are government intervention
in the
to
market.
Prevent a certain level of competition.
This is how I explain Fallout to you right here, is that the version of the game that you play, you want that to be what's shown on screen. They are like the pro rel people. All they want to see is the version of the game they're playing played out on TV. And if you deviate from their preferred vision of what happens at all points, well, then this isn't the way it's supposed to be. This isn't canon. I'm not watching.
Yeah, I get that.
And to be clear, like FIFA doesn't have a legal authority in the US. There's no... Yeah, so Grayson, I want to ask you about this. So hang on. Yeah, so we have people that are like determined to be like, well, it's FIFA's rules, it's FIFA's laws or whatever. So this is the part of the lawsuit was, I believe, naming both U.S. Soccer and FIFA for enforcing this monopoly. And this is the news that happened. So Grayson, explain to me, FIFA and Relevant shook hands and FIFA walked away from this. How does this work? What happens here?
Yeah, So U.S. Soccer's defense, one of U.S. Soccer's defenses was that they're just complying with FIFA rules.
Just following orders. Always a good
about
defense.
International soccer. And what the trial court and the chief, I think you said Second Circuit Court.
Yeah.
Said was that was that like following the rules of like an organization is not an excuse for like violating United States antitrust law.
Fair. Okay.
That and makes so sense. Like because like if you're like enforcing the rule, you're responsible for it. So one of FIFA's arguments below was that they're just not subject to the jurisdiction of U.S. courts.
Hmm.
And that was part of like what was up on appeal.
Okay.
I think last week, certainly like pretty recently.
In the last 2 weeks, for sure.
FIFA and Relevant Sports reached an agreement whereby FIFA would be dismissed by the case entirely. But they would agree to abide by whatever ruling the court came to.
That's the interesting bit because FIFA.
That is the interesting bit because FIFA had this like technicality.
Yep.
Where they were like, we're not subject to jurisdiction of U.S. courts. And as part of like the settlement, they agreed to abide by the jurisdiction of U.S. courts.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, like there's not much else beyond like the fact of the agreement in the public sphere.
Mm-hmm.
But it does feel like they think that they've lost.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to have to like pay Relevant Sports any money.
Yeah. And so FIFA threatened this with the Super League as well. So FIFA has some funny little enforcement mechanisms with the competitions that it puts on that they could have said, all right, fine, we'll abide by all this. But any league that puts a regular season game outside of their host country or whatever, their normal country, that any players playing in that league can't play in FIFA competitions that year. So then you could have said, all right, La Liga, you can host, El Clasico in Miami, but not a single player playing in Spain can go to the World Cup. So if Spain wants to run that risk or see that, that talent drain, so be it. If that's what they did with the Super League. They basically said, fine, but any player playing for a Super League team wouldn't be eligible for the Euros or for the World Cup, not even the Euros. But I think also UEFA threatened the Euros. So this goes back all the way back to, there's a really great Wikipedia article just called Game 39, which is, I love it because there's like no context for it. But basically, all the way back in little old 2008, the Premier League came up with a plan that starting in the 2010-2011 season, they would add an additional game to every team in the league. But that game, the 39th game, would be played at a neutral site outside of England. Sometimes in England, but outside of England. And obviously everybody was upset by this. And then FIFA's rules made this very difficult to navigate. But I bet somebody somewhere in the old Premier League office still has the old PowerPoint presentation on what Game 39 would look like to drop, Man City, Arsenal, and Dallas, and Burnley, Luton Town, and Nashville, and whatever else the case may be. They have a plan. They're ready to go. Now, back then, Sepp Blatter and FIFA strongly opposed this and had threatened to, put up as many roadblocks as they could. Infantino's FIFA just walked away from this lawsuit saying they're cool with whatever goes down. This is a very different landscape for American soccer.
It will be very, very interesting to see what happens if the Supreme Court denies cert on this case and the decision of the Court of Appeals stands on this. Because the next step afterwards, like I said, or like I sort of was talking about earlier, is that somebody's going to have to decide to start playing games in the United States, and somebody will decide to. It's not a Relevant Sports.
Sports they tried to do a La Liga game here.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to do a fucking Ecuadorian, whatever they call it, La Liga Serie A game here.
Yeah,
there's an incredible amount of like foreign countries banging down the door
to
hold games in the U.S.
And this is the type of competition MLS has never had to deal with before.
The Mexican national team gets a better draw in the U.S. than they do in Mexico.
That's the first league, honestly. You want to talk about the first 100%. League that will start playing games here?
It will be San Antonio or El Paso will become they'll put like a professional team there.
See, that's the piece that if I'm Liga MX, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, LA, absolutely. At the very least, I'm kicking the tires on some USL franchises of like, hey,
San Diego, easy.
Yeah, could you get to a bigger stadium? Yeah. Well, for sure.
Obviously.
There's still a little more show.
But not Liga MX San Diego. We're supportive of Liga MX San Diego.
I would support Chivas USA back from the dead.
Jolo's San Diego.
They just move across the street.
This is one very much watch this space because this will get interesting. And you want to talk about like Liga MX? Yeah, I absolutely see that. Once you get to the European leagues, I think there might be a little bit of a fan backlash to the idea of staging any games overseas, but it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, we'll see. They definitely want to stage games here.
Yeah.
And if there's a fan backlash and they decide not to do it, that's not a legal problem.
Yeah.
Like that's just making a choice.
And that
there's
might
also
be,
a certain amount of this to me too that's very funny, because we have spent basically the better part of the last 15 to 20 years in this country exporting our sports leagues everywhere in the world. Baseball this year, you might not have noticed it because no one ever notices this shit. And baseball is just the most inept league at marketing itself on the planet. They opened the season in South Korea this year.
Yep.
South Korea famously has its own professional baseball league.
Pretty good one.
And if you were a sports junkie, you'll recall the South Korean Baseball League was the first league to start back up after COVID. I sat up till 4 a.m. through a rain delay to watch South Korean baseball just to get a fix, because it had been months since I'd watched a ball being used on a playing surface. I needed to see something. But we didn't have a problem sending Major League Baseball there. The NBA is played in Europe.
And is kicking around the idea of starting a NBA Europe league to capitalize on it. Yep.
Yeah.
The NFL plays in London, Mexico City.
Yeah. So it's this is
Frankfurt, Germany,
Frankfurt, Sao Paulo this coming season. Yep.
So this is us. This is finally us getting a taste of our own medicine, where we have exported our sports leagues around the world, whether or not the local authorities wanted it or not, or whether the local sports leagues wanted it or not. And you'll be kidding yourself if you don't think that partnership the NFL has with Tottenham isn't going to manifest itself at some point back over here.
Please let Spurs play in Paul Brown Stadium. I want it so bad.
This would be my guess as to how it goes. My guess is the Euros, or at the very least Champions League final, will be played in New York first, and
it'll be Wrexham, and it'll just piss everyone off.
I mean, oh, absolutely.
Wrexham
right?
will just move to LA.
They relocate the team.
They'll make League One teams fly to LA.
The season of the famous show Goodbye to Wrexham.
The whole thing just gets built up too. Yeah, they cash in all of the goodwill. I love that.
That would be an incredible show, though. About they build up years building up all this goodwill, and you meet all these people in the town, and then it's a documentary of just people telling the camera to fuck off because they're doing a show about removing a sports team from a town.
That'll be sad that American soccer will end, though. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
Is that there will be no more American soccer after,
there'll be a better pro rel future
Wrexham
for us all.
Yeah, no more American soccer when Wrexham leaves. Yeah, I don't know. We can touch on Wrexham here.
I don't want to think about Wrexham.
Yeah, okay. It's just
I do. Golazo, that they've done more for American soccer than
Shut up. Not you, but them.
What kills me is Alexis
it's so fucking
Guerreros
stupid.
Is the one saying this. The Cooligans came onto the scene being unapologetically MLS, and now it's not even clear that they cover MLS, even though the two of them are official.
No. If you just act real excited about whatever you're talking about,
right?
It's also funny and also interesting.
Wrexham and their TV show is doing as much for soccer in America as MLS is doing right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids in the Wrexham Academy from Cincinnati, so I'm sure
the Aronsons went through the Wrexham Academy, and so did Tyler Adams and Christian Pulisic and
I gotta dig up
Weston
the article.
McKinney and Matt Turner, and
they're making me hate the show, and I don't like that.
Christian, I've never watched the show. I don't care about it. I'm not against it. I'm not against people who watch the show.
Right.
But it's insane to act like the show has anything to do with anything.
The YMCA as an organization is doing more for American soccer than Wrexham is. Okay,
dude, fucking Boy Genius as an organization has more to do with American soccer than Wrexham.
Mia Hamm has done more for American soccer than Wrexham has.
So here's a funny real quick story. So I was in Chicago with my family in 1999.
Okay.
While the Women's World Cup was there, and we went to a pizza restaurant called Gino's East.
Yep.
and Mia Hamm was there.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we saw her. And this has been like a story of like my life, like for like my whole life. Like I saw Mia Hamm like at one point in my life. It's incredible. And I met my current wife at one point in time. And she clearly thought I was like some kind of like podunk like hick or something, because I was like, I told her like, oh yeah, I saw Mia Hamm, because she had lived in Chicago before, and I was like, yeah, I saw Mia Hamm at Juno's East, and her understanding of me saying that was like, oh, you saw a ham.
Oh no!
I saw Mia Hamm. I saw Mia Hamm at Gino's
I saw Mia
East.
Ham. I saw Mia cheese.
She thought I saw like a
Pepperoni.
hanging. She thought I saw like a hanging ham at Gino's East.
I'm sure you did see a ham, honey.
The biggest ham you've ever seen.
You saw a ham. That's cool.
They have ham at lots of places.
Oh God. Let's answer a couple of Patreon questions and get out of here, shall we? Let's do it. Oh, all right. Final
so, Grayson,
part
I gotta
here.
ask before we get started. When
please.
you talk about FC Cincinnati with your wife, does she get real concerned that you saw a Kubo?
I don't talk about FC Cincinnati with my wife. I'm like, there's a soccer thing happening.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I saw you a Kubo.
Yeah, but we'll wrap this thing up with a couple of questions from the Patreon. The very fine, very attractive folks that donate us, I will say, a fairly small amount of money every month are entitled to ask us a question. You can join them as well. There are open spots. There was once upon a time where we tried to limit that. So we've got questions for you, and Sarah Gorman starts off with a great one. Fuck, marry, kill. Columbus, Nashville, Red Bulls.
Fuck the Red Bulls. Marry Nashville, kill Columbus.
That feels right. Bachelorette party, Nashville, marriage. I'm in.
I feel like a marriage to New York would be tumultuous.
Yeah.
It'd be a hollow existence.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Kevin?
Kill Columbus by moving them to
Austin again.
Cleveland.
It's just two teams in Austin now.
Austin United.
So Kevin, there was a question that on the last episode, I think you said you were saving for me.
Yes.
What is that question?
What is that question? What did I have here? It was this one. I wanted all of us to be on this together. Bart Sharkey asks, are you going to have any away days this season? If so, when and where? Also, are there any plans for more live podcasts or watch parties? Chief, do you feel at liberty to discuss this?
I will discuss. I'll say it. All right.
Say it.
All right, I'll say it. We are going away to the New York Red Bulls game this year in July.
Yes, that is the next away day. We did plan that.
So we are going to do an away day in July at the New York Red Bulls game. What were the other questions in there?
I'm just excited we're going for a true rivalry game for away day this year. So we're just continuing our tradition of we're going to the Derby match each year.
Yeah, I like this. Any plans for live shows or watch parties? I will say, please.
I will say that we are constantly we are having continued discussions about live shows. And it's tough. It's tough to figure out what makes sense to have a live show or a watch party. I don't think you can distinguish between them.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a live show where there's not a game to watch.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
I don't think
ever.
we can do like a distinction between live shows and watch parties. And we were I was, at least me, like I was like fully humbled.
Yeah, that
by
was
like
ridiculous.
what happened with the like live show / watch party that we did do. So like I'm
not eager to go back to that. I'm not eager to go back to that point where I was really stressed out that no one was going to show up. Like we did it.
Yeah.
People showed up. I'm not in the mood to tempt fate. Like,
yeah. I have some ideas. I haven't even floated to you guys, but I went to the New Heights live show.
I'm not doing, I'm not losing my Super Bowl ring in Nevada chili.
That was
mostly because I don't have a Super Bowl ring. So
that was a hilarious moment, and he explained it in the moment, and I still feel like most of the crowd didn't understand that he had literally put.
Also, I just want to pump the brakes a little bit. We're not taking ideas from New Heights. They sold out Fifth Third Arena. We have nothing in common with them.
Here's my thing, though. Beforehand, they did a Jocks versus Nerds competition. It was very funny. It was very physical or whatever. But it got me thinking. There's a couple of games. There's some trivia things. Like I'm thinking thoughts over here. Like I said, I haven't fully fleshed them out. I think there's a there.
I like the idea that if you went to our first live show, that's the only opportunity, and now it's something you're just not going to get that chance again.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely no promise of any further live show.
Right, but New York,
would Streetside even have us back at this point? I don't know that they would. After our sound was awful, the content was mediocre.
We'll see.
I'll have you know.
We'll see about all of it.
They really want us back.
Don't tell me that.
It's gonna happen.
Don't tell me that.
I'll drag these through kicking and screaming. Scott Wilson asks, best bang for your buck at TQL Stadium: seat location, food, beer / drink. I'll tell you what the best bang for your buck is, if you can get it. It's the Tunnel Club, or at the very least, it's the pitch view seats when there's a U.S. Open Cup match and you can get them for sub $100. That's the best bang for your buck.
We got our money's worth from the bar on that one when we all went together.
So if you're not familiar, it's all you can eat, all you can drink, open bar.
I can drink quite a bit.
Comfortable seats.
I think it's First Financial Club.
Yeah,
I think they're great seats. And not much more than up top.
I think it depends on what you're looking to get out of your FC Cincinnati experience. If you are looking to go and watch the game, then I think the First Financial Club is probably your best option in terms of you're going to get a good seat. You have access to food and beverage lines where the line doesn't wrap around the inside of the concourse to get a drink, or if you want to get a snack in the middle of the game, you can do that without having to worry that you will miss significant portions of the game. If you're just going for a party and for having a good time and you're going by yourself, get a Bailey ticket. There's value if you want to have fun and do the singing and all that, getting there early, doing the march and all that. But if you just want to go have yourself a good time, midway up the Bailey in the center behind the net, do that. Go get yourself a domestic tall boy from the bar behind the Bailey. There's a Gomez there to get turtles at. That's your best value in terms of, I just want to go, I want to watch a soccer game, I want to have a few beers. You can get in and out for the night for under $50-$60 and feel like you got your money's worth.
For food, I am worried about giving this out because I don't want other people to take it before I get it. There is a grab and go, pay for yourself spot behind the corner. What is that? The music hall end corner behind there. I think I've declared that the Taft end. The Taft end, but it's the corner on the eastern side of it. Yeah. So they sell a wrap that is essentially the old school Chipotle burrito size wrap. That is a steak and broccoli wrap. It's like $10. It's the most fulfilling, satisfying meal I've had in a stadium ever. And yeah, they just had a big pile of them. You could go in and grab one and pay for yourself. It was so nice. It was so easy. I had no idea they were selling it. It was delicious. So don't buy those. Leave them for me. Thank you. It's important. I don't know.
Good way to keep a secret than tell you on a podcast. Good job.
Me and 11 other people are going to fight for it. Any food, though, in the first financial? Is there anything to write home about food?
Sammy's Burger Place it depends on what you get. It's pretty decent.
It's decent.
I've had breakfast in the first financial club. It was
any other questions from the...
This is a good one, and this kind of goes back to part one. I'll ask it now because things are rough. Brock Bermel asks, if you were playing FCC Survivor, which players would have been gone so far this season?
Who's staying?
There it is. Sergio Santos would have absolutely been cut after the third game of the season. I forget which one that was.
Baird gone, Bupenta gone.
Yeah. I think that's all we would have cut.
Do we have to name 8?
Yeah, that was Jonah's old bit that he ran out of players eventually.
If we had to do 8.
So for me,
they had to appear in the game. So yeah.
I'll name 8. Who'd we say already?
So Baird, Bupenza, Santos. So we've already gotten rid of all the strikers.
Halsey.
Yeah. Halsey.
We're getting rid of Halsey? All right, fine.
Who's Lucho's friend? No, we're not voting Evan off. Who's Lucho's buddy? Assad. He's gone.
Assad, okay.
I feel like Kip Keller would have been voted off.
Kip Keller.
5.
Obi.
No.
He's not been good.
Malik Pinto.
Alvis Powell? He's appeared.
Yeah, Alvis Powell.
There's your
Alec
8.
Khan.
One more for good measure.
Khan. Just because I want Evan to start more games.
No. we can't knock off. Yeah, okay, fine. Khan.
We're starting alliances already in our fictional.
Can. That's 8.
There you go. Who are we left with? It's going to be tough to finish the season.
We'll get through.
It's possibly fine.
It can't possibly be any worse on offense than the team we're voting off.
I mean, just like the real team, a lot is riding on Yu Kubo to get this team through. So,
can you imagine that, like telling yourself this before the year that you wouldn't have voted Yu Kubo off? That's unbelievable.
I would not have voted Yu Kubo off. And honestly, like if you told me like this team like depended on like Yu Kubo to advance, I would say yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it did. He was always,
because Yu Kubo is the most important player on the team.
Through 8 weeks, he is the MVP, I think. Like, without him.
He has, like, what, 3 goals?
Yeah, he's the leading goal scorer with 3 goals.
Yeah, Yu Kubo is the best player on the team. He's been the best player on the team for, like, 4 years?
2022, I think he was, or 2021, he was the leading goal scorer of the team with 3 goals.
Yeah, Kubo is the best player on the team. He's just not like the best playmaker.
It's the when Ronaldinho won the Ballon d'Or, he said this award means I'm the best player in the world, but I'm not even the best player on my team. And he was referring to Messi. That's Lucho and Yu Kubo. This award for the MVP.
Kubo is the best player I've ever seen in my entire life.
And if you agree with that, please get the hashtag trending locally. Thank you, Gerard.
Danka Gerard.
Yeah,
Danka Gerard.
Gerard in, Gerard back.
All right. The joke has gone too far. That's offensive, Gerard in.
Are we done here?
We are. Chief, get us out of here.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.